Hello. So thought I'd make a video for game week 2 now. We're back up and running. FPL started again. Thought this was a good place to start. If anybody's not following FPL Martin, he's probably the funniest guy on Twitter. He cracks me up more than anybody else. FPL Gods making sure neither Thiago, Charlie or Kinski gets points for that penalty. Yeah, FPL's back to that familiar feeling of inevitable disappointment. And what I was saying last week about like attackers and defenders, and maybe don't worry about it because it raises your floor. Because if an attacker misses, it probably means your defenders or goalie gets points. Yeah, not all the time. And I should probably warn I've got a few like new subscribers recently, so just a warning to anybody new. I'm not that good at FPL, just to kind of put it out there. I think my rank is around about, according to FPL Optimised and Review, around about 100k-ish, maybe a bit more if I'm good. That's like my supposedly XG rank, deserved rank, whatever. Then with a bit of luck, I'll be in the top 50k. Bit of bad luck, I'm in the kind of hundreds of k. That's kind of where I seem to gravitate. There are some FPL managers that are they gravitate around top 10k. And in a good luck, they'll be in the top 1k. Bad luck, they'll be in like 50k-ish. So that's my goal, is to try and get to where they're at. I haven't fully figured out how they do it. I don't think it's just luck. I think there is some skill. There are some things that I'm missing. Probably the eye test part of the game is a big thing. I think that probably does help. But there are some managers that have great ranks who don't do the eye test at all. So don't know. There might be other things. I'll talk about some stuff today. I'll get into it all. Yeah, I don't think it's all bad luck either. It depends. Because I'm also, just a warning to new subscribers as well, I don't know if my luck is the greatest. It depends. The last 4 seasons I've had 3 bad luck seasons and 1 good luck, again according to FPL Optimise. Now it depends how you view luck. If you think it's just random, then you can discount it. But if you think maybe there's a degree of we make our own luck, or a degree of like self-sabotage or karma or something like that, that could be in there as well. Who knows? So yeah, just tempering expectations. I want to talk today about psychology. I'll talk about my plans as well and stuff like that, but I want to talk about psychology a lot, and Haaland's new haircut and whether appearance matters, and also the psychology of picking, how we pick our teams, how we make choices, and when we feel good about a choice rather than bad about a choice. What is it that makes us feel good? And I kind of want to explore all the biases, because I had a load of like FUD, and I've been changing my mind about Haaland, no Haaland, so I want to talk about that. And I want to talk about, like, I need to talk about Wildcard 3 and whether to go Haaland or no Haaland. Have I changed my mind on that? Stuff like that. And then I'm going to talk about the model at the end. I've got a few updates about the model. Yeah. So anyway, I did all right, 49 points. The average was 50. I got 49. It's fine. A lot of people bench boosted. You tend to hear about the better bench boosts because they're the ones that share it on Twitter, and the ones that didn't do so well, they keep quiet about it. Ipswich and Sunderland players maybe didn't do too well, but yeah, it's fine. It's an average start. Little bit underwhelming. Yeah, and my basic plans are to stick to the plan. Bench boost 2 still on. I don't know. Nothing's really changed that much, and nothing's really changed that much. Hull did well, but it's opening day fixtures. They're probably up for it. I've got a Gibbs White possible injury, so he might be a transfer. I need to wait for news. If he's any sort of doubt, I probably will just transfer him. Probably to a Liverpool player, maybe a Brentford player. But I've already got a bit of Brentford. I've got no Liverpool, and they got good fixtures. Forest, Ipswich, Fulham, Bournemouth. It's not bad before a wildcard 6 if I go there. So it might be Szoboszlai, which was a last minute 50-50 that I was trying to figure out, and ended up going Gibbs White. So I probably should have just gone Szoboszlai from the start, but might be Szoboszlai. We shall see. Got to think about Barcola. I've got to talk about transfers as well. There's so much to talk about. So anyway, Gibbs White, free transfer. I might transfer him out, but we'll see. And then Pinnock has moved to Coventry, but I'm presuming Thomas is. Unless we get hard concrete news that he's not going to play Bobby Thomas, I'm going to presume he will start. He is. Let me see if I can remember this. Him, I think Pinnock is left centre back. Same with Kitchen, and I think Amenda is actually a right centre back, even though he's been playing on the left. So I think it might be Amenda that could be, because I think Pinnock may come in over Kitchen, but I think Amenda might be the threat to Bobby Thomas. It may be that, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if we get news, but I'm just going to wing it at the moment. So yeah, we'll carry on with that. Have we learned anything from game week 1? I mean, I found it interesting that these top 4 teams here are all managed by managers who have been there for the whole of last season. Moyes, what's the Brentford manager's name? I can't remember. But that chap, Arteta, Hertzler, seems like, this narrative that maybe these new managers, new players, going to take a little while for them to get rolling, could be a narrative. Chelsea look good. Yeah, but everybody else, all the other teams, all a little bit unsure, and maybe Tottenham might have overestimated, might need a bit longer. Newcastle looked kind of good. Maybe I underestimated them. And yeah, Hull, I just think Aston Villa looks shocking. They could be in trouble. And what did I say? And Hull, I just think it's like a FA Cup final for them, first day of the season. So I'm still imagining they'll be whipping boys. They might last for a couple of games. Next 2 games are quite good for Hull, but Coventry, Aston Villa, but then they'll get a humbling and probably fall back. Yeah, what was I going to say about that? 1 second. Oh yeah, just wanted to show this as well. This is from last season, the over and under performers, and Aston Villa were one of the teams that massively overperformed. They probably, if you believe in expected points and stuff, they probably ought to have been much lower down. Same with Sunderland as well. They overperformed, so they probably should have been in the relegation fight, really. So those 2 teams, I'm thinking maybe we need to think a lot differently about those 2. So yeah, early days though, game week 1. So I need to figure out though, I'm probably just going to crack on for now. Game week 2, same old, bench boost. But I need to figure out if I'm going to wildcard 3. And the big thing about wildcard 3, I'm getting the feeling that when people talk about it, it's like they're doing it to get Haaland in. And it's like if they're not going to wildcard, well, they're going to free hit to get Haaland in. Like the idea of not going with Haaland against Coventry is like just an absolute no-brainer, non-consideration. Whereas for me, I was kind of thinking this Haaland versus non-Haaland thing is a season-long question. Like a season-long, I'm just going to go without him for the whole season. So I wasn't even going to bring him in for Coventry. But I had a bit of a flutter, of a worry, a wobble, because just before the deadline, game week 1, about an hour before, I suddenly started thinking it was nuts to not go with Haaland. Obviously, this is maybe just cold feet, but you've got. I just started. The question I was trying to ask was, how many points does Haaland need to get for me to consider it either a success or a failure to have gone without him? And I'd done maths like this before, but this time I just looked at my model, and my model had it like, well, he was already close to being worth getting in your team, and he was predicted about 35 points over the first 5 game weeks. That's about 7 points a game. And I thought, he's going to smash that easy, like 7 points a game, that's just 1 goal a game. I'm scared he's going to get 2 or 3. If he needed to get 2 goals a game every game, and I think this is the kind of dodgy maths I did in previous seasons, but I don't think he really does. He just 1 goal a game. If that's all he needs to get, I was thinking he's going to absolutely smash that easily. No, he didn't. I don't know how long I can hold out for though. I mean, over a whole season, that is his average amount of points he gets, is about a goal a game. He probably averages out, or some sort of return up game, about 7 points a game. Wouldn't be a goal a game, that's too much, but 7 points a game. He averages around about that, so it's probably reasonable to expect to beat that over the course of a season. So I guess it's just my memory of the fear of Haaland in the first few game weeks that was kind of hitting me and thinking he's going to smash it, but maybe he won't. So I need to talk about this in this when I talk about psychology. It's like these kind of things affect your decision making. So I was having that. a bit of FUD about going no Haaland, my solver also started suddenly picking Haaland. I knew he was kind of close. I must have tweaked something in the model, and then suddenly he was like appearing in solves, and so that was like, damn. Like I guess he was just very close to being worth picking. And then let me get my brains. I keep forgetting what I was going to say. Sorry, yeah. And then I was looking at some drafts, and so I had like this was my team, and forget the names here. FPL website went a bit funny for when they were loading up challenge. I think João Pedro was called John Peter for a second. Don't know why. But anyway, I noticed that the difference between like a Haaland draft that my solver was like suggesting to the team that I was going with, it was like you either go Haaland and then 3 cheapies. All the rest are the same. So it's like Slater, a 6 mil forward like Gonzalo, Sangare, and then Haaland. Or you can get 4 bigger hitters: Wirtz, Thiago, João Pedro, Gibbs White. And so I was looking at that and thinking, well, I'd much rather have the 4 big hitters than just Haaland and 3 tiddly ones. So that was kind of what I was thinking. But then I kind of thought, well, actually, firstly, Slater's a bench spot anyway, so this spot is kind of wasted money on the bench, one of these, because he's supposed to be a bench spot. And then this spot here, I realised that if you just kind of put Gabriel down to a 5 mil, that gives you 3 mil. You can upgrade Kinski to Raya, so you can get your double Arsenal defence, and you can upgrade this 6 mil to João Pedro, and then just have a 5 mil there. And all of a sudden, it's like, that feels good. And now it's just Haaland and Sangare versus like Thiago and Wirtz or something. And it's like, the drop-off is not that huge. It's like you're not having that much of a sacrifice to get Haaland in your team. So for a while, I was thinking, why the hell do I not have Haaland? This is crazy. But then I was trying to kind of go back and think, well, why did I pick Haaland? Why did I go non-Haaland in the first place? And what I liked, I've been thinking big in the middle might be the play this season. Last season, that was where all the points were. Maybe not the value, but I think the points definitely were all in midfield. And this season, I feel like it's the value as well, because like DEFCON players have all gone up in price. I think there might be more goals this season. So big in the middle was like this feeling of like, I just want to have 5 big hitters, as much money as I can in the middle, because forwards don't get that many points and don't get that many bonus. So I wanted to put my money in the middle. And that's still the case. If you want to go for a Haaland draft, and I've been kind of looking at new ones, this isn't absolutely definite, but if I was to wildcard in 6 and bring Haaland in, you kind of have to go a bit cheap in the middle. That's not too bad, but I've got to put a Sangare in there, and then maybe a Szoboszlai. Zolis could be good, and that could be Palmer rather than Saka. But I've got rid of Gabriel and Raya now in defence in order to get him in. And this is with like a 4 mil keeper, 4.5 dead spot there, and then 2 4 mil defensive players. So it's a very cheap bench. Whereas if I go without Haaland, I can get Palmer in. Palmer's going to be a big part of this if he's going to be good this season. Bruno and Bomo I like, Zolis, and then maybe I can get up to 8 mil in this spot here. Szoboszlai, maybe I might be able to get up to a Semenyo if I find another 500,000 somewhere. So 5 big hitters, and I can still get Thiago, João Pedro, and Gabriel and Raya. It's nice. A couple of 5 mils I like, Vuskovic, Maharemovic. So I've got to decide. Whether to go Haaland or not. And at the moment, I'm still leaning no Haaland. But one of the problems with no Haaland as well is that you got to max your budget out. If you're not maxing your budget out, then you're really being pretty maxing. I mean, 1 mil in the bank isn't too bad, but you're going to be leaking points. Whereas with see, I don't know which order to talk about this, but like in psychology, one of the things is I like having lots of money. There's something inside me that kind of likes having that. I don't like being tight for money. Like if when you got Haaland, everything is a little bit tight and you've got to be real careful. Whereas I like having that kind of slightly more relaxed feeling of like being able to get to anybody I want to, little bit of leeway in the budget. But maybe that just means that my team is not maxed out. If the feeling of tightness of being tight for budget is a sign that you're being super efficient with your budget and you're like pushing it to the max. So maybe I should get comfortable with that. rather than kind of wanting that flexibility but then never using it. So anyway, so Haaland I need to figure out whether to get or not. Game week 3, wildcard 3, everyone's going to have him for Coventry. I've got Semenyo. I'm going to be like the only person without Haaland. Or am I? I don't know. So, yeah, what else do I want to say about that? I don't think it's much. I've just got to figure it out, I guess. I don't have to figure it out this game week, but it'll be next game week I'm going to have to figure that one out, whether to go Haaland or not. I don't want a free hit because I want to save it for later. I think, I don't know if anybody's heard about El Nino. Big El Nino, could be bigger storms this season, this winter and stuff. So, I don't know. There's always a good chance that you're going to get a postponement here or there. So, saving a free hit for that. I'd much rather that. Yeah. I haven't decided. Let me just have one more little think. Well, there's one other thing I was just thinking of as well. This might be why I was holding out for. Is another problem with wildcard 3 is it's very early. It's probably the earliest you could justifiably use a wildcard because the transfer window's closed. You got 2 game weeks worth of data. It's not bad. You could move, and I'm a little bit worried. Wildcard 6 might be a bit too late. But wildcard 3 does feel early. And you're going to be wildcarding. Your next wildcard will probably be game week 31, 30, 31, something like that. Or for me, it will be. So you've got to make sure it's right. And some of these teams, like, this idea of like managers and players needing a bit of time to set in. It could be that some of these teams, like Tottenham, by the time you get to about game week 6, 7, 8, maybe, they'll become the team that everybody wants. And if you've already wildcarded, maybe you might be a bit locked into a certain structure, and whereas some of these teams might need a bit of time for gelling, so game week 6 might be a better time to kind of hit them, jump on that. So yeah, I've got to decide. I'll talk about psychology now because I could just keep swinging back. Like it's interesting how I try to figure out whether to go Haaland or not. What's going on in my brain? Yeah. So psychology, because the Haaland thing. I want to talk about some of these biases you can get. Here's some bias. There's absolutely loads of biases. It's in psychology, but these are just some that I was going to pick out. With the Haaland thing, well, because one of them I'm going to go in a backwards order here, but like the fact that I had kind of declared it on my video that I was going to go no Haaland, I've got to stop doing that. Like I know Let's Talk Andy, he doesn't. He decides at the very last minute, and I feel like I need to leave that door open because I'd already kind of declared it. It made it harder for me to go against it because it would feel kind of like it would look bad if I come back and say, oh, I've changed my mind. I went with Haaland in the end when I said I wouldn't. So I've got to watch out for that. Leave the door open so I can change my mind last minute. And then let's just go through these one by one. Contrarian, yeah. So there is a streak in me that kind of wants to be contrarian sometimes, and I think that's like Haaland is the ultimate. And is if I want to scratch that itch, just going against Haaland is it feels like a very easy ultimate way to just I'll go without Haaland. Now I can feel like I'm a little bit different. I'm a little bit unique, so I don't want to be too much of a sheep. But I don't know whether that could be a bias. Well, it probably is. You should just pick the team you think is going to get the most points. So I probably need to watch out for that. It's difficult though because I do like to try and be a little bit different if I can. Flex, is it a flex to go without Haaland? Could that be part of the psychology? Sometimes I notice in like intellectual circles that if there's somebody very, very high up, if you can find a way to disagree with them, it's like if you disagree with somebody who's a genius, you must be more smarter than a genius then. And I see this sometimes where people try to critique other people who are right at the top, because if you critique them, then in some way you're insinuating that you're even smarter than the smartest people on earth or something. And so if you can go against Haaland, this player that everybody's got, the highest owned player everyone goes with, it's like is it just like a psychological flex to kind of like yeah, you know, do you need to do that, or is it just stupid to do that? It might be stupid. So there could be a little bit of that in there. I don't know if that's fully true, but it might be a little bit. The lots of money one, which I said just a minute ago as well, like I do like having that feeling of having loads of money. I even sometimes wonder whether like you know, growing up poor or something makes you kind of feel more like you just like to have lots of money because it's something rooted in that. And just feeling like, oh, I've got some, I don't want to be tight for money, I want to have loads of money. I don't think so, but sometimes I wonder whether that stuff kind of subconsciously gets in there. But I do like, I've done this before in the past with like Kane, or going threemium, and I never like to push it too much. I like to just release it so I've got a little bit more money to spread around. So yeah, that's something interesting. Being first this is something I notice sometimes, where if I find a pick that nobody else has spotted, or at least I don't know that anybody else has spotted, and I spot a pick and I'm like, oh yeah, I like that player. If that player then becomes a template pick, I don't mind picking them. I don't feel like a sheep for picking them, because I already had that moment in my mind of picking them first, and I knew that I was first to them. Whereas if a player becomes a template pick and I didn't notice them, somebody else noticed them as a bandwagon, everybody jumps on, and then I jump on later, I find that harder, because now I feel like a sheep. I feel like, oh, I'm just following everybody else, and is it really my own decision to go for this player, or am I just following everybody else because there's like a bandwagon forming? I find that trickier to kind of know because you know, when you're first, you know your true opinion, because that's your true opinion. You're looking, is that player any good? No. Is that player good? Yes, I like that one. But when there's a bandwagon, you don't know whether it's your opinion or whether you're copying everybody else. Sometimes. So that's tricky, and that's something I need to look at. And then good and bad memories. If you've had good memories with a player, that can sometimes taint your view, or bad memories of not owning a player. So like Semenyo, Morgan Gibbs-White, and Semenyo and João Pedro. I owned Morgan Gibbs-White at the end of last season. He did really well for me, so maybe that's why I went for him. And Semenyo and Pedro, they smashed me when I didn't own them, so maybe that's why I went for them. Whereas Szoboszlai, I've had no good memories of owning him. I don't think I even owned him at all. And I've got no bad memories of not owning him either. I don't remember him hurting me at all. So I think that's why I wasn't really that big on him. But I need to talk about like penalties as well in the model, and I think I might have missed the fact that, you know, you've got to give him a little bit of a boost if he's got a penalty chance as well. So yeah, things like that though. Good and bad memories can slant your view a little bit. And then the public declaration thing. Yeah, and I should just say as well, like if anybody in the community is like really good with psychology and wants to do, I think it'd be a really good spot for somebody who's into psychology and could give like a psychological assessment every game week for all the games and stuff, and like seeing things through a psychological lens. I know Raptor is into psychology, and he made that book Mind Game, but then he did that FPL therapy thing, but he doesn't talk about psychology that much, only every now and then. So I think it'd be really good to have somebody who's just always keep talking about all the psychological biases that we could be having all the time. It'd be really interesting, I think. A couple of others though. Confirmation bias. The way that this affects me, I think, is I want certainty. There's a desire to have certainty. So when you're trying to pick your team, like when I'm trying to pick a team, I'm looking for a feeling, and it's a feeling of like, yes, like a hand in glove fit, like, yeah, that's the one, that's the team, and it just feels good. And I want to get to that feeling as quick as possible as well. It's uncomfortable to be in that place of uncertainty where you're like, you're in no man's land. There's loads of picks, you're not sure who to go for. And so you kind of have a bias to get to that spot as quick as possible. And so when you get there, or when you think you're there, you really don't want to get pulled out of it either. and so confirmation bias can act in the sense of like, once you've got your pick, if you start coming across reason to go against that pick, you might discount it. Like for instance, like as I say with Haaland, my solver suddenly started picking him, and I just started ignoring it. I was like, surely it's just I've probably tweaked something. It's just an error. I didn't really want to hear it because I'd made my mind up. I'd got to that point of certainty where I was like, yeah, I'm happy now with my team. That feels good. Let's just set here. And then I just wanted to discount any new information because I didn't want to think about it anymore. And so being good at FPL is like quite hard work, I think. Like it requires you to be. It's quite a lot of mental energy, and you can so you have to be kind of open to new information and to change your mind and to kind of restructure and stuff every time you get new data all the time, right to the last minute. I think. And I think there's a desire for certainty and just desire to get you feeling, get it feeling good, and then just turn your brain off. It's done. So yeah, and then confirmation bias can affect that sometimes. Authority bandwagon bias is just being a sheep. I just still, even though I feel like I'm quite good at not listening to it and doing my own thing, I still feel it sometimes. Like the fact that everyone's, the fact that so many people went without Haaland made me feel a bit better about going without Haaland, and the fact that everyone seems to be talking about wildcard 3 and bringing Haaland in is making me nervous about going without Haaland for game week 3. Now, to a degree, you'd be a complete sociopath to not care about what other people think entirely, and there is a kind of hive mind logic to that to a degree, but you got to kind of go careful with that to not be swayed too much. Try and kind of find your own thinking. So I'm usually pretty good with it, but it's in there sometimes. I think I'm swayed a bit still. Loss aversion too negative. Yeah, I think I mentioned this before. I want to try and look out for this. I think if you're good at FPL and you have a lot of good luck, you will probably be more likely to take certain risks that other people wouldn't, because you just feel like you're on a roll, like going for triple Coventry defence on a bench boost or something like that. My normal instinct might be to kind of, all I can see is a clean sheet wipeout. It's not going to happen because I'm kind of negative because I've had like bad experiences. Whereas somebody who's on a roll might be like, oh yeah, let's go for it, and then they'll feel more bullish that it's going to come off. And humans are naturally more loss averse than we remember the pains more than the pleasures and stuff like that. So I'm trying to kind of counter that if I can, and play as though I'm lucky and play as though I'm a winner, which is a bit sad, but like, you know what I mean, like, but try and get into that headspace of like being a bit more positive. Also, I'm a bit of a kind of melancholy person in general, so I think that might actually be part of why I'm not that good at FPL, because maybe a little part of like bit too negative, bit too not really believing things are going to work out. So that could be something that's in there. Try and attack that a little bit more. Action bias. These are just other biases. Action bias is just feeling like you have to do something when quite often nothing is better to do nothing. And this is from Mind Game, Ross's book. He says the biggest bias is the belief that you don't even have any biases. That's like the biggest bias. So that's interesting. But there's loads and loads of other biases. These are just like some I picked out that I was thinking about now. And the biases do affect you. Like there's a famous study of judges that give worse sentences. They give better, more lenient sentences after they've had lunch, and they just statistically they give worse sentences when they're hungry later on or something. Little things like this. So like, I don't know, bit overkill, but have some lunch before you make your FPL decisions. Yeah. Anyway, I've been thinking a lot about psychology because having the big flip flop about Haaland and stuff. And it's just like, what is it that makes me choose what I choose, and what's going on under the hood, and is there some errors in judgment and thinking that I can kind of maybe find and correct. I'm sure there's a lot going on in the hood. Probably need to see a psychologist. That's probably what I need to see. Anyway, psychology, interesting. And then appearances. Yeah, because this is the other side of psychology. Is Haaland's got a new haircut. Does that mean he's going to be crap now? Probably not, But to be honest, it's like, again, in my decision making, it's a tiny notch to the negative. Even though he used to have like a skinhead, so it's like maybe he'll be used to it. But it's like it's Haaland with his long hair was like, it's what is it? Samson he lost his hair, he lost his power. It feels a bit like it might affect him. Now appearances is like, do appearances matter? Some people might think no, not at all. But I feel like they do. You see this again in life where if the taller you are, the more likely you will be to become a CEO. Like CEOs are like, I don't know, 60% of all CEOs are over 6 foot or something like that, compared to like 15% of the population, something like that. And there's been studies to show that better looking people earn more money, things like this. And I tend to think appearance does matter to a degree. You look at the Arsenal team, they do look quite good, and you think, I wonder if they've been, I wonder if that's part of the selection process to make sure you get players that look good. And when I say look good as well, it's like there are players like Puyol or a Ribéry who are like, not the most good looking, but they still have a kind of power about their image, their appearance, because you don't have to look beautiful, aesthetically beautiful to be a good footballer. You just need to look intimidating to the opponent or something. And I remember like Graham Potter going to Chelsea. I remember just intuitively feeling like he wasn't going to do well, because my first instinct was, even though I knew nothing about his tactics, all I could think about was that on a Champions League night, when they're really against the cosh, if that's the term, and they're looking over to their bench and they see Graham Potter, is he going to inspire confidence? And I just, sorry to Graham Potter, but I feel like he wouldn't. Whereas if you look over to your bench, you see Ancelotti, or even Arsene Wenger back in the days, and that, like, there are certain people that just exude inspiration and confidence, and I feel like it matters. With the managers, I was going to go through this. Like, this is something that I actually did at the start of the season. I just kind of looked at the managers' faces and thought, what's going to happen here? Like, who's a winner and who's a loser? I think Xabi Alonso, I can't see him failing. Like, I can't imagine him being humiliated and humbled. I just can't see it. I can see him doing well. So I can see him. Whereas somebody like Pierre Sage, this chap, if in 5-10 years' time, when you go back and say, oh, can you name all the last Crystal Palace managers for the last 5-10 years? There'll be one manager you'll be like, oh, who was that guy who was there for like 2 months? And you'll totally forget who his name was. He seems like that kind of chap. Somebody you're just going to totally forget. He'll be like there for like a couple of months and gone, and he'll be, a whatever you call it. Yes, you forget. So he seems like that kind of manager, and you can kind of get this feeling from the players, from the managers' faces, like who's going to do well in that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether I want to go through all of them. I feel mean, kind of judging them now, face to face. But like, I can see Iriola and Maresca being potentially humbled. I can see Carrick being this narrative that he's just a caretaker manager and they really need a new manager. That could happen. I don't know. This guy, I think, might surprise people, maybe. I don't know. I wasn't really bullish on him, but he might surprise people. Farker just looks like a beast, doesn't he? I think he'll be fine. Keith Andrews, that's his name, isn't it? He's quite good. I don't know. Yeah, I think Chelsea will do well, though. Arteta looks fine. Farker will be fine. But some of these others, I don't know whether you can judge, but judging by people's faces and the aura they give off, does it matter? Was there someone else I was going to say about that? I don't know. I think that's about it. But I don't know. I feel like it does matter a little bit. So that's part of my intuition as well. Then it is in there, like just getting vibes from the players and like how much do I believe in them. Yeah, it's probably in there. But I wonder whether you could like study that more or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's enough psychology talk, I think. Yeah, I'll be interested if somebody else is a psychologist out there to kind of talk more about this kind of stuff. Anyway, last just couple of little bits I wanted to mention. Price changes. Hasn't been many price changes so far. This is the only data I have from like 22-23 season and 23-24 season. But both of those seasons, there wasn't that many in game week 2. Only a few. All the big ones came in game week 3. Massive surge there. Hardly any falls in game week 2. Same, just about like, what's that, 6 or 7 rises, and then loads in the next game week. Same here, about 8 rises, then a bit more in the next. Not that many falls in that. So we may still get the price rises next game week, which is game week 3, which is, I guess, a good reason to wildcard then, because you could get loads of price changes there. But there's still quite a lot in game week 6. Still a fair few game week 6 in these 2 game weeks. Is it that one there? Maybe. Wasn't there many there? So I don't know. Game week 3 though could be a good time to wildcard if you want to farm some value though. So this is what I need to decide, because if I'm going to do it, I need to pull the trigger. When's the deadline? Friday again. Oh no, sorry, that's game week 1. No, it is Friday. Another Friday one, 6:30. So I need to decide in 24 hours, almost. So that's price changes. Transfer window. I was going to talk about the transfer window, but there's so much to talk about. I think I'll leave that. I mean, there's so many changes. You have to just try and keep up with it. It's. I mean, Watkins is gone now. Jackson's gone to Aston Villa. I was trying to pick out some interesting ones, but De Gregorio has gone to Bournemouth, so Petrovic could be competition for him. I don't know. Ordonez, Disasi and Tomiyasu gone to Crystal Palace defence. That could help. He's quite good, wasn't he? He was in the World Cup. Elvedi right back. I was wondering if he could be competition for Muharemovic, but I think he's a right centre back. Muharemovic, I think, is the left centre back, so I think he's okay. Barcola, Liverpool, mad. So what does that mean? Isaac Gakpo might go up front instead of Isaac. Take some minutes off him. Yeah, that's a big move. Boadi is apparently quite good. Man City have lost loads of players. Enzo may be going to there. I heard rumours, but I don't know. Tottenham, they look good. Marmoush possibly. Anyway, yeah, transfer window. There's too many to think about. It's moving too fast, so that's one to keep on top of. And then the final thing to talk about then is the model. So anybody not interested could switch off at this point. Couple of model updates. So yeah, I was going to do this video yesterday, but I had a bug in the model and I fixed it, but it took me the whole day to fix it. Hopefully nobody else has this. I think it might have to do with the solver, but I'm not sure. When you use the solver at the same time, when you save and you sign out, it says, would you like to save the solver? It hasn't been saved. And apparently you're supposed to click no. When I've looked into it, you're supposed to say no apparently. So whereas I probably says yes the first time, and it can sometimes corrupt the file up. I don't know why that is. That's not my fault. That's an Excel fault. But I think. But it could be something like that, or it could be something else, because it could be a Power Query thing. Basically, so this is game week 1. I've been trying to kind of. It was the first time I was trying to put the new data in, and I realised it wasn't really going to work. So I've had to put an extra sheet, a Power Query sheet in for the API. Because one of the problems with the FPL API is they add and remove columns a bit willy-nilly, like, and so it can be difficult to keep everything aligned and linked up. So now I've done a Power Query, so you just copy and paste the API into here. I'll upload this version of the model if anybody wants to get the latest version and stuff. You can just copy and paste the API there. Then this Power Query will sort it all out for you, and it will all be linked up fine. So it's just a simple copy and paste now. The playing time, just make sure you do values just from row 3 downwards, just the values, and that table will stay fine. That table's fine as well. I've also added this team section where if you go, when you make transfers, you go to your transfer history, this will start filling out with all your transfers, just 4 columns wide. And if you just copy and paste your transfer history there, this will just update your team for you throughout the whole season, so that when you go to predict, you can have your players all be highlighted. that's all it is for. You don't really need that, but I just really like having my players highlighted. So in that team section, you put your game week 1 team in. If you've got an earlier version of Excel, you'll need a macro probably. It might not work, so you might have to put that in by hand. Yeah, just put your team in, and then that should do it all automatically. So yeah, getting all the data in. So that's all the data in though, so it should be updated now. And then I made a couple of tweaks as well. Just a few maths that I think might have been a bit wrong. Again, just going back to what I said at the start of like, I'm not perfect. This isn't a professional model. This is just my own personal project. It's not perfect, so just be wary of that. Use it at your own risk. I mean, I like it. I think it's pretty good, but occasionally I find little kind of things that aren't perfect. So yeah, I adjusted that maths, the added goal boost. Bonus. I've added a bonus change adjustment. So the bonus changes this season should mean that based on the previous season's data, bonus data, DMs and centre backs will probably get about 1% less bonus because they're not getting that double counted for their defcons, whereas everybody else I've just given it a 1% boost. I mean, it's a zero-sum game with a bonus because you've got to give 3 no matter what, and so if it's not going to the DMs and the centre backs, it's probably going to go to somebody else. That's what I've done. Fantasy assist boost. Oh, I've just moved it. That's nothing. FDR and DC FDR column. Just add a little FDR column so you can see the level of difficulty, whether it's a good run of fixtures or a bad run of fixtures. I mean, these are mostly going to be. They're mostly positive, which I feel as though they shouldn't be, but most of these are positive. It's basically a player's average if start score. Their average if start score run through the fixtures divided by their if start score not run through the fixtures to see how much of a boost it has over their average or a deficit over their average, if you see what I mean. But they're all positive, which makes me think there might be something up there, so I might double check that. And then the DC FDR, it's run through the P points as well. Yeah, hard to explain. Conditional formatting, added a bit of conditional formatting. That's fine. Minutes filter, I've changed it to a percentage of the amount of time you've played rather than an absolute 500 minutes. I've just done it. I've set it to 10% at the moment. So yeah, you can change that. It'll be like a percentage now. So as long as minutes filter, anybody player that hasn't played 10% of all total available minutes will be given zeros. Cut out your model. This I did wrong. So this is what I mean when I make some errors. So these DC rates, I think I'd done the maths wrong. I'd done the DC per 90 sum of that divided by the sample size, and I should have really just added up all the DC and divided by total DC divided by total minutes. So that's all fixed now. I had it turned off anyway because I didn't really trust it anyway. But the centre backs I had like a 7% boost, but it's actually a 5% boost. And the DMs I had them as like a 1% boost at home, but it was actually last season it was actually 3% away, 3% at home. So yeah, but at least I fixed it now. I think that's right. I mean, could still be wrong, but I think it's right. Think it's right. And then what we got? Yeah, I've added team. And then one final thing is like penalties. This is because other models, Solo and Review, had Szoboszlai a lot higher than Gibbs White, and I was trying to figure out why that was. And I think one of the reasons might be penalties, because my model doesn't factor in penalties. It just takes a player's XG, whatever they've got, and then projects it forward. Because I always used to think, I don't care how a player gets his G, I just care about the G. So like so Szoboszlai, if a player gets a certain percentage of his XG from penalties, well, that's how he gets his XG, fine. But where it becomes important is when you get players who weren't on penalties and now become penalties, and when penalties shift around and switch players, then it would be better to know a player's non-penalty XG and then have a kind of like percentage that you just add for XG. Now I don't know how to. FPL API doesn't give you the non-penalty XG. I don't think so. I double check that, but I don't think it gives you the non-penalty XG. I could probably work it out, but it's a bit tricky. But what I've done is just I've got a rule of thumb where I thought I updated Sabozlai's data there. I think I did. I did a rule of thumb where it's about 0.8 XG per 90, I think. If a player gets penalties based on about 4.5 penalties a season, or it might be 4 actually, 4 penalties a season, and a 0.77 XG for each penalty, I think it works out as an extra like 0.8. I think I worked it out, XG per 90. So Szoboszlai, he did get 1 penalty last season. So if you give him like an extra 0.6 and put him up to 0.21 XG, something like that, so I can adjust. That's probably how I'll do it. If there's ever penalty takers, I'll probably adjust it manually. But I don't know. I might get round to adding the penalty thing to it. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, that's enough talking. That is enough talking. So, yeah, there's my team. I've got to figure out whether I'm going to wildcard with Haaland or not. And I'm not going to declare what I'm going to do yet, because so then I can have the freedom to change my mind just in case. But my hunch at the moment is probably still I won't go with Haaland, and I'll wait. Those price changes they would be nice though. Yeah, I haven't figured out, but that's what I've got to figure out. Anyway, enough talking. All right, good luck. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.